Associate with those who elevate you. Epicurus. Let that sink in for a moment, because whether you realize it or not, your peace, your discipline, your mindset, they are all shaped, even sculpted, by the people around you. There's a modern saying, maybe you've heard it before, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now pause and really think about that. Who are your 5? Are they people who lift you up or quietly drain your energy, dim your focus, or pull you away from who you're trying to become? In this video, we're going to explore something rarely talked about, but absolutely essential if you want to live with clarity, intention, and inner peace. We'll walk through 13 types of people that Stoic wisdom and modern psychology both urge us to avoid. Not out of judgment, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect and emotional clarity. Because sometimes growth doesn't come from doing more. It comes from protecting your peace, from saying no to the people who rob you of your focus, your time, your energy, and yes, sometimes even your soul. You see, the Stoics weren't cold or distant. They weren't about cutting people off for the sake of being superior. They believed in community, in virtue, in kindness, but they also believed in boundaries, in guarding your inner citadel, your mind, from unnecessary chaos. And that starts with choosing your company wisely. So let me ask you again, who is influencing your thoughts, your habits, your choices? And are they helping you become the person you're striving to be? If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, constantly distracted, or emotionally drained by people around you, this video might just help you reclaim your focus, your discipline, and your peace. So grab a notebook, or just listen in as we unpack the 13 types of people to watch out for through the lens of modern Stoicism. Because in a noisy world, protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's strategic. Let's begin with the first type of person you absolutely need to distance yourself from if you want to protect your energy, your focus, and your future. The complainer. You know the one. They walk into the room and the temperature drops by 5 degrees. Their favorite hobby? Pointing out everything that's wrong with the world, with their job, with people, with life, without ever lifting a finger to change it. Complaining is contagious. At first, it feels innocent, relatable even. You hear them vent about traffic, their coworkers, their bad luck, the weather, politics, and maybe you nod along trying to be polite. But here's the danger. The more you're around someone who only sees the negative, the more your brain starts scanning for the negative too. It's not just emotional, it's neurological. According to neuroscience research, repetitive complaining actually rewires your brain to become more sensitive to negativity. Your brain begins to develop a bias. You start expecting things to go wrong. You become reactive, not proactive. And when you're trying to build a life of discipline, clarity, and peace, you simply can't afford to think like a victim of circumstance. Let me be clear. Venting once in a while is human. We all need a safe space to release frustration. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about chronic complainers, people who never look for solutions, who refuse responsibility, and who slowly drain the life out of you by turning every conversation into a storm cloud. Stoic philosophy has something powerful to say about this. Epictetus once wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The complainer refuses to own that power. They surrender their peace to external circumstances. And worse, they pull others into their spiral of helplessness. Think about this. Have you ever left a conversation feeling tired, heavy, or demotivated, even though you didn't do anything physically demanding? That's the emotional toll of negativity. It's invisible, but it's real. And over time, if you're not careful, it becomes your default lens on life. Here's a personal example. A few years ago, I worked closely with someone who was brilliant, but also constantly negative. Every new idea was too hard, every challenge unfair, every success lucky for someone else. At first, I tried to encourage him, then I tried to ignore it. Eventually, I realized I was becoming like him, cautious, doubtful, tired. When I finally created distance, something shifted. My mind cleared, my energy returned. I started focusing on what could be done instead of what could go wrong. Sometimes the best self-care is walking away from people who don't want to grow. So here's the takeaway. If you want to protect your peace, if you want to live with purpose and mental clarity, you have to be intentional about who you allow into your inner circle. Ask yourself, who around me complains constantly without taking action? Am I starting to mirror their attitude? What would happen if I replaced 1 hour with a complainer? With an hour reading, reflecting, or talking to someone who challenges me to grow? Now, I'm not saying you should cut people off without compassion, but you can set boundaries. You can limit exposure. And most importantly, you can choose not to absorb their energy. Because here's the truth. Complaining without action is a form of mental pollution. And if you're not careful, it can cloud your vision of what's truly possible in your life. So as we continue this journey through the 13 types of people to avoid, remember this. You don't have to fix everyone. You don't have to argue, convince, or save them. You just have to guard your mindset fiercely. Your peace is your power. Don't trade it for someone else's excuses. If you found this helpful so far, let me know in the comments. Have you ever dealt with a chronic complainer? What helped you shift away from that energy? And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll catch the next episode. Because in part 3, we'll talk about another mindset saboteur, the drama magnet. Stay grounded, stay growing, let's keep going. The second type of person you need to watch out for, if you're serious about protecting your discipline and building a meaningful life, is the excuse maker. Now let's be honest, we've all made excuses at some point. I'm too tired. The timing isn't right. I would, but that's normal. That's human. But the kind of person I'm talking about, they don't just make excuses now and then, they live in them. The excuse maker has a story for everyday thing. Why they didn't try, why they didn't finish, why they couldn't change. And it usually sounds something like this. I would have been successful, but I didn't have the connections. I could have done better, but my boss was toxic. People like me don't get those kinds of chances. Notice the pattern? It's always someone else's fault. It's always the weather, the government, their childhood, the algorithm, anything but their own decisions. Here's the hard truth. Excuses feel safe, but they steal your power. When you constantly blame circumstances, what you're really doing is handing over your control. You're saying, I'm not in charge of my own life, the world is. And here's the kicker. The excuse maker doesn't just hurt themselves. They hurt you too if you spend too much time around them. Because excuses are like secondhand smoke. Even if you're not the one lighting the match, you're still breathing it in. Let me ask you something. Have you ever shared a big idea or goal with someone and their immediate reaction was, that's hard? Be realistic. You're lucky if that ever works. That's the excuse maker's voice, disguised as concern. But what they're really doing is projecting their own limitations onto your vision. And if you're not grounded, their doubt becomes your hesitation. Their fear becomes your ceiling. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The excuse maker hasn't realized this yet. They're still convinced that the game is rigged, that success is mostly luck, that discipline is pointless because life is unfair anyway. But the truth, yes, life can be unfair. Yes, some people have advantages. But what separates those who rise from those who stay stuck isn't luck. It's responsibility. In my own journey, the biggest shift didn't come when I found the perfect strategy or opportunity. It came when I stopped saying if only and started saying what now? Because when you stop making excuses, you start making progress. So here's the warning. Spending too much time with an excuse maker can quietly sabotage your mindset. You'll start to second guess your ambition. You'll start to believe that maybe it really is too late or too hard or not meant for people like you. Don't let that happen. Surround yourself with people who hold themselves accountable. People who say, I messed up, but here's what I'm doing about it. People who believe in action over blame. People who remind you that you are not powerless, no matter your past, your environment, or your obstacles. So as you reflect today, Ask yourself, do I have someone in my life who constantly blames others for their lack of progress? Am I picking up their mindset without realizing it? What would change if I chose to be radically responsible for everything I can control? Because here's the truth. Excuses are easy, action is hard, but only one of them builds a life worth waking up for. If that resonates with you, leave a comment below. What's one excuse you've let go of? And what did it open up for you? And of course, if you're finding value in this series, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next episode. Next up, we're diving into a truly draining presence, the gossiper. You don't want to miss it. Let's move on to the third type of person you must keep at a safe distance if you value clarity, peace of mind, and self-respect. The gossiper. You probably know one, always whispering, always speculating. Their words are laced with, "Did you hear about?" Their eyes light up, not when discussing ideas, but when someone else's flaws take center stage. At first glance, gossip can feel harmless, even entertaining. It brings a kind of cheap closeness, a shared secret, a moment of mutual judgment. But here's the truth. Gossip is a distraction dressed up as connection. It pulls your attention away from what truly matters and fixates it on what you can't control, other people's lives. There's a quote often attributed to Eleanor Roosevelt. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. And the gossiper, they don't just discuss people, they dissect them. But why? Because it's easier to point fingers at someone else's mistakes than to take a hard look at our own. Gossip gives the illusion of superiority without the responsibility of growth. In Stoic philosophy, one of the core teachings is to focus on what's within your control, your actions, your mindset, your character. The gossiper does the opposite. They live in other people's business. They thrive on things they can't change while neglecting the one thing they can, themselves. And here's something even more dangerous. If they gossip to you, they will gossip about you. Make no mistake, anyone who finds pleasure in tearing others down will do the same when you're not in the room. Let me share a quick story. Years ago, I worked in an office where one person, let's call her Linda, seemed to know everyone's secrets. She was funny, charming, and always had the inside scoop. But over time, I noticed something strange. People around her were constantly on edge. They watched their words. They held back. Why? Because everyone knew whatever you said today might be tomorrow's lunchtime headline. That kind of environment, it kills trust, it suffocates creativity, and it slowly trains you to live small and stay quiet. Because being visible means being vulnerable. So let me ask you, who in your circle constantly steers the conversation toward rumors and judgment? How does it make you feel afterward? Clean and empowered, or slightly guilty and drained? Are you participating to fit in, or because it aligns with who you want to be? You see, gossip doesn't just reveal how someone sees others, it reveals how they see themselves. The need to bring others down usually stems from deep insecurity, a lack of purpose, or a desperate hunger for attention. The gossiper may seem confident on the surface, but underneath they're often struggling to feel valuable without comparison. Here's the Stoic way. Live in a way that speaks for itself. Let your actions, not your opinions about others, define your character. And most importantly, guard your energy, because the moment you start investing in drama, you start withdrawing from your destiny. Now that doesn't mean you cut everyone off at the first sign of gossip, but you do set boundaries, you redirect conversations. You become the kind of person who values integrity over entertainment. And when you do that, you attract people who think higher, aim higher, and live higher. So if your goal is to build a life of discipline, wisdom, and quiet confidence, let go of the gossiper. Choose silence over slander. Choose focus over friction. Choose character over chatter. If this message resonates, let me know in the comments. Have you ever distanced yourself from gossip? What changed? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because in the next part of this series, we'll talk about another silent thief of energy. The envious one. Let's keep going. Your peace is worth it. Let's talk about the fourth type of toxic person to avoid. The envious one. This isn't someone who simply admires success. It's someone who resents it. Someone who sees your growth not as inspiration, but as a threat. And that, my friend, is dangerous energy to be around. Envy wears many masks. It can show up as a fake smile when you share good news, a subtle eye roll when you talk about your promotion, or that cold silence that follows your achievement when you expected celebration. And here's the thing, it's not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's hidden in sarcasm. Wow, must be nice to have all that free time. Oh, look at you being all successful. But behind those words is a message. You're making me feel small, so I need to make you feel guilty. The envious one doesn't know how to share joy. Why? Because deep down they believe your win is their loss. That if you're doing well, they must be doing something wrong. This mindset doesn't just poison their own self-esteem, it tries to drag yours down too. Let me ask you, have you ever walked away from sharing a win, feeling worse than before you shared it? Like maybe you were bragging, or maybe you should tone it down next time. That's not humility talking. That's the effect of being around envy. And over time, that influence can be devastating. You start shrinking your light to make others feel comfortable in the dark. You stop reaching higher because no one's clapping when you do. From a Stoic perspective, envy is the ultimate distraction. Instead of working on your own virtue, your own path, your own character, you're fixated on someone else's journey. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." In envy, it's a hunger with no end. Now let's be clear, feeling a flicker of envy is human. We've all looked at someone else's life and thought, why not me? But the envious one doesn't just feel it, they live in it, they feed it, they water it, and they let it define how they treat others. And the danger? That kind of energy is contagious. I've seen it firsthand. I once had a friend who at first was supportive and encouraging. But as things started going well in my life, new opportunities, small wins, growth, the tone shifted. Suddenly they were distant, critical, dismissing every win with luck or connections. And I realized something painful but freeing. They couldn't be happy for me because they weren't happy with themselves. So here's what I want you to remember. You are not responsible for someone else's insecurity. You don't have to apologize for growing. You don't need to dim your light so someone else feels less exposed. Your success doesn't make you selfish. It makes you a mirror, reflecting back to others what's possible. And some people aren't ready to see that. So what do? You set boundaries. You surround yourself with those who can genuinely celebrate your progress. People who say, I see you, I'm proud of you, let's keep going. And you become that kind of person too. When someone wins, you cheer. When someone shines, you light your own fire, not try to blow theirs out. Because envy kills potential. But gratitude and admiration, they multiply it. If this message resonated with you, let's talk in the comments. Have you ever had to step away from someone who couldn't celebrate your growth? What did you learn? And of course, if you're on this journey of growth and inner strength with us, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a moment of this series. Next, we'll be tackling another subtle but exhausting presence, the hot-tempered. You'll want to see that one. Let's talk about the fifth type of toxic person you need to watch out for, the hot-tempered, the one who erupts at the smallest inconvenience, who confuses aggression with strength and makes everyone around them feel like they're walking on eggshells. You know the type. 1 minute everything's fine, the next, boom, they snap, raise their voice, slam a door. They say things they don't really mean, but by then the damage is done. Here's the problem. Anger is contagious. It spreads faster than a virus because our nervous systems are wired to mirror others. When someone lashes out, your body tenses, your mind shuts down, and your ability to respond with reason gets hijacked by the fight or flight instinct. In the presence of constant rage, people shrink, creativity fades, trust disappears, and peace, it evaporates. Now, don't get me wrong, anger itself isn't evil. It's a signal. But the inability to manage anger, to pause, to breathe, to respond instead of react. That's where the real harm begins. Stoic philosopher Seneca said this nearly 2,000 years ago. Anger is a brief madness. Control it, or it will control you. And Epictetus taught us this powerful practice. If someone does you wrong, ask yourself, what part of myself was harmed? Was it my character, my integrity, my reason? If not, why be angry? That's Stoicism in action. To delay the reaction, to insert space between stimulus and response, to choose clarity over chaos. Think about it. Have you ever responded to someone's anger with silence? Not because you agreed, but because you were protecting your peace. That moment of restraint, that pause, is strength. And those who can't find that pause, they're not powerful, they're out of control. I had a manager once who was brilliant on paper, but he had a temper like a wildfire. He'd storm into meetings, throw insults, humiliate people in front of the team. No matter how good the results were, no one felt safe. Eventually, the best people left because people don't leave jobs, they leave toxic energy. And hot-tempered individuals, if left unchecked, turn environments into war zones. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine being around someone who remains calm under pressure, who listens before speaking, who doesn't take offense at every disagreement. That's not weakness. That's power with discipline. And that's who we should strive to be and be around. So what do you do when you're dealing with a hot-tempered person? First, don't mirror their energy. They want you to meet them in the fire. Don't. Stay in the water. Respond slowly, calmly, with intention. Second, set boundaries. If someone constantly explodes and never takes responsibility, you have the right to step back, to protect your peace, to say, I'm not available for conversations that involve yelling. Third, to watch yourself, because we all carry the seed of anger inside us. It's how we tend to it that matters. Water it with self-awareness, and it becomes resolve. Neglect it, and it turns into rage. So here's what I leave you with. Rage is not strength. Patience is. Explosiveness doesn't earn respect. Self-mastery does. And if someone close to you constantly chooses heat over harmony, you don't have to burn with them. You can choose a different temperature, a different tone, a different life. If this message spoke to you, drop a comment below. Have you ever dealt with someone whose temper drained your peace, or have you had to work on your own reactions? Let's grow together. And if you're serious about building a stoic mind in a noisy world, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. In our next segment, we'll talk about another subtle yet exhausting force, the manipulator. You won't want to miss it. Let's move on to the sixth type of toxic person that Stoic wisdom urges us to recognize and keep at a distance. The manipulator. Unlike the hot-tempered, they don't raise their voice. They smile, compliment, apologize, just enough to keep you hooked. But underneath that charm is one thing: control. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling small, guilty, confused, and yet unsure why? That's manipulation. It's subtle, it's calculated, and over time it eats away at your energy, your clarity, and worst of all, your self-worth. The manipulator uses guilt as a weapon. They'll say things like, after all I've done for you, you're so ungrateful. I thought you were different. Sound familiar? Other times they flip the script to make you question your own reality. You express a boundary, they say you're selfish. You ask for space, they call you cold. You say no, they act like you're the villain. What's dangerous about manipulators is that they often come disguised as friends. They don't yell, they flatter. They offer help, favors, emotional support at first. But every act has invisible strings attached. They want something back. And when you don't give it, the guilt trip begins. Now, why do manipulators have such an impact on us? Because many of us are wired to please, to be kind, to avoid conflict. And manipulators thrive in that space, where our boundaries are fuzzy and our need for approval is strong. They slowly chip away at your independence until you're no longer making decisions based on your own values, but on their reactions. The Stoics would say, if someone else can control your emotions, they control your mind. That's why Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And reclaiming that strength means learning to see through manipulation without losing your kindness. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my life when someone I trusted would always twist my words. I'd say no to a plan. They'd sulk for days. I'd set a limit. They'd accuse me of being distant. And every time I felt like I was the problem. It took me years to realize I wasn't selfish. I was being trained to feel guilty for having boundaries. And that realization changed everything. So what can we do when we recognize a manipulator in our life? First, name the pattern. Once you name it, it loses its grip. You realize this isn't love, this isn't friendship, this isn't support. This is control wrapped in affection. Second, clarify your values. When you're clear on what matters to you, your peace, your freedom, your truth, you become harder to manipulate. Third, set boundaries without explaining yourself endlessly. You don't owe a manipulator a long justification. A simple, calm, that doesn't work for me is enough. And finally, if they continue to cross your boundaries despite your clarity, you have every right to step away, to choose your well-being over their approval. Here's the hard truth. Manipulators don't just want your time. They want your energy, your doubt, your obedience. But you were not born to live under someone else's emotional leash. You were born to think clearly, to feel fully, to act freely. Don't let anyone make you forget that. Have you ever had to cut ties with someone who subtly controlled your life? Let me know in the comments. I read everyone. And if this resonates with you, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Because in the next part, we'll break down another identity that slowly drains your purpose, the lazy one, and how to protect your mindset before it's too late. Let's talk about one of the most deceptive energy drainers in your life, the lazy one. Now you might think, lazy people don't bother me. If they're not doing anything, what harm could they really do? But here's the truth that many people overlook. Laziness is contagious. And when you're around it long enough, you start lowering your own standards without even realizing it. The lazy one isn't just someone who takes an occasional break. They consistently avoid responsibility. They dodge effort. They hide behind comfort and try to convince you to do the same. They'll say things like, why push yourself so hard? Just chill. No one really cares. You're too serious. Lighten up. Sounds harmless, right? But slowly it erodes your drive. Because here's the dangerous part. They make mediocrity seem normal and excellence seem excessive. Think about it. If you're trying to wake up at 6 a.m. and start your day with purpose, but you're surrounded by people who sleep in, procrastinate, and call your effort overachieving, how long do you think your discipline will last? Motivation doesn't thrive in isolation. It needs friction, challenge, and momentum. And when you're constantly exposed to passivity, you start second-guessing the fire inside you. Stoicism teaches us that virtue lies in action. Marcus Aurelius said, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. We were not born to coast through life on autopilot. We were made to move, to think, to grow deliberately. Now, don't get me wrong, rest is essential, but there's a difference between rest and avoidance. Lazy people often wear rest as a disguise for stagnation. They avoid hard truths. They delay hard work. And over time, their world becomes small, filled with excuses, regrets, and some days that never come. And if you stay too close for too long, that energy starts pulling you in. Let me ask you, have you ever had a friend or partner who always found reasons not to act, not to start, not to finish, not to change? At first, it feels like empathy. They're just tired. Then it feels like enablement. Maybe they're not ready, but eventually, it becomes a weight on your own progress. You begin making excuses on their behalf, and slowly you stop moving forward altogether. I've been there. There was a season in my life when I had big dreams, big plans, but the people I surrounded myself with, they were comfortable staying small. Every time I tried to take a bold step, start something new, improve myself, push my limits, I was met with apathy, no encouragement, no challenge, just blank stares and subtle discouragement. And it made me question, am I the one being unrealistic? Maybe I am trying too hard. That was the trap, and I only escaped it by changing my circle. Here's what I've learned. You don't have to hate lazy people. You don't have to argue with them, but you do have to protect your energy because your time on this earth is short. And if you surround yourself with people who refuse to move, don't be surprised when your life stands still too. So if you want to stay sharp, driven, and alive, surround yourself with people who take action, who challenge you with their ambition, who make you want to be better, and politely but firmly create distance from those who normalize inaction. Not because you're better than them, but because you've got something to build, a purpose to serve, a legacy to leave. So here's your reflection question. Who in your life makes you feel inspired to take action? And who makes you want to slow down, give up, or stay stuck? Drop your answers in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this video is helping you build stronger mental clarity and boundaries, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that bell so you never miss an episode. Up next, we'll dive into another silent dream killer, the addicted, but how to recognize emotional dependency disguised as support and what to do about it. Stay sharp, stay free, and I'll see you in the next one. Let's talk about someone we all know, the friend who's always scrolling, the colleague who can't stop checking their phone, or maybe it's deeper, someone who's lost in substances, video games, online fantasies. This is the addicted, and they may not look dangerous at first glance. They're not angry, they're not manipulative. But here's the truth, they're not present, they're not in control, and over time, their dependency becomes your burden too. We live in a world that's designed to hook us. Algorithms, dopamine loops, instant gratification. So when someone around you is addicted, they're not just choosing a bad habit. They're often trapped, and they don't even realize how deep it goes. And worse, they start pulling others down with them. Here's how it plays out. Let's say you're trying to be mindful, read more, work out, stay focused, but you hang out with someone who spends 6 hours a day on TikTok, always playing just one more game or drinks every weekend like it's a lifestyle. Soon you hear it. Come on, relax. One night won't kill you. Why are you always working so hard? You're being too serious. Live a little. But what they're really saying is, don't change because your growth makes me uncomfortable. It's not always about addiction to substances. Many people today are addicted to distraction. And that, my friend, is one of the most dangerous forms because it steals your time quietly. No crash, no sirens, just hours, days, years, disappearing into a screen. Now, am I saying cut every addicted person out of your life? Not necessarily, but here's what I am saying. Protect your momentum, guard your clarity, and know the difference between someone who's healing and someone who's just drowning. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That includes his mind, his impulses, and his focus. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how your energy shifts after spending time with someone addicted? Maybe you feel foggy. Maybe you start skipping workouts. Maybe your sleep schedule starts slipping. It's not a coincidence. We become what we tolerate. And your environment is always influencing you, either toward your highest self or away from it. I had a friend years ago. He was brilliant, talented, full of ambition, but he was glued to online gaming. I'd visit him and find him still in pajamas at 3 p.m., surrounded by empty cans, mumbling about how he'd do better tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. And every time I left his apartment, I felt a little more numb, not just toward him, but toward my own goals. That's when I realized compassion doesn't mean self-sacrifice. You can love someone and still choose distance. You can wish them healing and still protect your peace. So here's your challenge. Take inventory of the people you give your time and attention to. Ask yourself honestly, are they building with you? Or are they constantly escaping from life, dragging you into the void with them? You only get one life. Don't let someone else's addiction become the thief of your own potential. Reflection for you. What small addictions are you tolerating, either in yourself or others? And what would happen if you replace that time with something that actually fuels you? If this message hits home, share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because in the next episode, we'll expose another silent threat to your growth, the dishonest. Until then, stay clear, stay committed, and above all, stay in control of your own life. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been around someone who says all the right things, but something about them just doesn't sit right? Maybe their words are polished, but their actions feel slippery. You start second-guessing your instincts, and one day you realize you're dealing with the dishonest. This type of person doesn't always lie in loud, obvious ways. No, they lie subtly. A twisted fact here, a conveniently forgotten detail there, and over time it starts to chip away at something sacred: trust. And here's the dangerous part. Dishonesty doesn't just damage relationships, it erodes your sense of reality. You start thinking, maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe they didn't mean it. But deep down, your gut knows something's off. And every time you ignore that signal, you pay the price. Here's a hard truth. If you have to constantly wonder whether someone is being real with you, they probably aren't. Honesty isn't just about telling the truth. It's about living the truth, about showing up with integrity, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you. Now, you might be thinking, but everyone lies sometimes. Isn't that just part of being human? Yes, we all slip. We all have moments we're not proud of. But the dishonest, they lie as a strategy to manipulate, to protect their image, to get what they want at your expense. I had a friend once, charming, funny, persuasive, but the stories never added up. He'd say one thing to me, another to someone else. Small lies at first, but eventually I realized he was building a version of reality where he always looked good, even if others got hurt along the way. It was subtle, but it was toxic. And walking away from that friendship, hard, but freeing. Because peace comes when you no longer tolerate the people who make you question your clarity. So let me ask you, who in your life gives you that uneasy feeling? Who says what you want to hear but never follows through? Who keeps rewriting the truth to fit their convenience? And more importantly, are you being honest with yourself about what you're tolerating? The Stoics believed that integrity is not optional, it's everything. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because true honesty means letting go of appearances and living with truth at the center. Here's the challenge. You don't need perfect people around you, but you do need truthful ones. People who speak with clarity, act with consistency, and make you feel safe in the truth. Because without trust, there is no foundation. Not in love, not in work, not in life. Final thought. In a world full of filters, facades, and performance, choose honesty, live it, expect it, and protect it. Because once trust is broken, the silence it leaves behind is often louder than any lie ever told. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect. Share this with someone who struggled with betrayal or dishonesty. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Because next time we'll uncover the toxic dynamic of the arrogant and how self-pity can quietly control your life. Until then, be real, be brave, and above all, be honest. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a room with someone who just had to be the smartest one there? Someone who couldn't listen because they were too busy waiting for their turn to speak? That, my friend, is the arrogant, the ninth toxic personality on our list. They're not just confident, they're convinced they're better, smarter, more important, and they carry that belief like a crown while looking down on everyone else. But here's what's fascinating. Arrogance often hides insecurity. It's rarely the truly wise who need to prove they're right. It's the insecure who fear being seen as small, who puff themselves up the loudest. They use condescension to control the room, mocking others instead of helping, correcting to humiliate, not to uplift. And if you're around this energy long enough, it can start to do damage because arrogance is contagious. It either makes you shrink or it makes you compete. Neither is healthy. Now let's flip the perspective. Think about the people you respect the most, the leaders you admire, the mentors who changed your life. Were they arrogant or were they humble? Chances are they didn't walk around proclaiming their greatness. They didn't need to. They listened, they learned, and they gave space for others to rise with them. In the ancient philosophy of Stoicism, humility is not weakness, it's wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Roman emperors, wrote in his journal, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." He ruled an empire, yet he practiced modesty every single day. Why? Because real power doesn't need to shout. Here's the danger with arrogant people in your circle. They can make you feel less than. They can shut down your growth with their smugness. They're so focused on their own brilliance that they fail to see the brilliance in you. That's not leadership. That's ego. And ego burns bridges faster than any flaw I know. So ask yourself, who in your life constantly makes you feel small? Who corrects you in public but never uplifts you in private? Who wins every argument, even if they lose your respect? And maybe the hardest question of all, have you ever been that person? I'll be honest, I've caught myself slipping into arrogance too, usually when I was feeling insecure or needed validation. But I've learned this. Confidence whispers, ego shouts. And when you trade arrogance for humility, you don't lose power, you gain trust. You create space for connection. And that's what real strength looks like. Final thought, the arrogant may seem untouchable on the surface, but deep down they're often the most fragile. Don't let their pride infect your peace. And don't let their loudness drown out your worth. Instead, walk your path with quiet confidence, rooted in humility, open to growth, and anchored in truth. If this message speaks to you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and turn on notifications. In our next video, we'll dive into toxic type number 11, the self-destructive, and how chronic self-pity can quietly sabotage everyone around. Until then, stay grounded, stay real, and stay humble. Let's talk about someone we all know. Not necessarily by name, but by the feeling they leave behind. You care about them deeply, but every time you help, they pull you in deeper. They're drowning, but they won't grab the lifeline. And somehow, they start to pull you under too. This is the self-destructive, the 11th and possibly most heartbreaking, toxic personality on our list. These are people who harm themselves, emotionally, mentally, even physically, through their actions or inaction. It might be obvious: substance abuse, reckless decisions, toxic relationships they keep going back to. Or it could be quieter: constant self-blame, sabotaging opportunities, believing they're unworthy of anything good. And here's the hard truth. When someone doesn't value themselves, they often can't value the people who love them either. Not because they're evil, but because their pain is so loud, it drowns out everything else. You try to help, you give advice, you sacrifice your time, energy, even sleep, hoping they'll change. And for a moment, just a moment, you think you're getting through. But then they spiral again, and you're left wondering, am I helping or enabling? Let me share something from personal experience. Years ago, I had a friend I loved like a brother. He was smart, kind, had so much potential, but he couldn't stop sabotaging himself with alcohol, bad relationships, and this belief that he didn't deserve better. I tried everything to help. I lost sleep, skipped work, gave money, showed up over and over, but nothing changed because he didn't want to change. He wanted comfort in his chaos. And eventually I had to choose, save him or save myself. That was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. Here's the truth no one tells you. Compassion doesn't mean self-sacrifice. You can love someone and still walk away. You can care deeply and still set boundaries. Because if their self-destruction becomes your destruction, you both lose. And this is where philosophy, particularly Stoicism, offers powerful clarity. The Stoics taught that we are responsible for our own souls, that peace, purpose, and progress must come from within. No one can carry another's burden forever. Epictetus said it best, "You may fetter my leg, but my mind will remain free." No matter how much you want to save someone, you cannot live for them. You cannot grow for them. You cannot heal for them. They have to choose it themselves. So if you're dealing with a self-destructive person, ask yourself, are you stepping into their storm or helping them find shelter? Are you supporting their growth or absorbing their chaos? Are you giving from love or out of guilt? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary ones because emotional rescue missions come with a cost. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go with love. Here's what I want you to remember. You deserve peace. You deserve relationships that lift you, not drain you. You are not responsible for saving someone who refuses to swim. Yes, we're called to be kind, to be patient, to care, but we are not called to be martyrs for someone else's chaos. Final thought. The self-destructive person may not be your enemy, but they can still be a danger, especially if they make their suffering your responsibility. So love them, but from a healthy distance if needed. And above all, must protect your hate energy. You can't pour from an empty cup. If this message resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to hit subscribe, tap like, and turn on notifications. Because next week, we're doing a full recap of all 12, The Time Vampire, with real-world strategies to break free from each one. Until then, stay aware, stay compassionate, and never forget you have the right to protect your peace. Let's talk about time. It's your most valuable resource. More than money, more than talent, more than opportunity. Because time, you can't earn more of it. You can't borrow it. You can't save it for later. Once it's gone, it's gone. So why do we let people steal it? Meet the time vampire. The 12th toxic personality you need to be aware of. They don't yell. They don't manipulate with guilt. They don't seem harmful at all. And that's what makes them dangerous. These are the people who drain your hours with endless, pointless conversations, who drop problems in your lap that they could solve themselves, who turn every interaction into a one-way street. Them talking, you listening. They don't mean harm, but they consume your time like it's disposable, while making you feel guilty for wanting it back. You know the type. Maybe it's a coworker who always just needs a minute. That turns into 30. Or the friend who calls again to rant about the same drama for the third time this week. Or a family member who constantly needs your help, but never respects your schedule. They hijack your calendar, hijack your focus, hijack your peace of mind, and in return, they give you nothing but mental clutter. Let me ask you something. How much could you get done if no one interrupted you for 48 hours? How many pages could you write? How many ideas could you build? How far could you move toward your dream? Now think about how often your day gets stolen. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, by people who aren't invested in your goals. That's what time vampires do. They don't just waste time, they rob your momentum. Here's the deeper truth. Every time you say yes to a conversation that doesn't matter, you're saying no to something that does. You're saying no to your writing, your workouts, your rest. You're saying no to the business you have been trying to build. You're saying no to the life you actually want to create. Now, I'm not saying cut everyone out. I'm not saying never pick up the phone. But I am saying this. You have a right to protect your time. Because when you protect your time, you protect your energy. And when you protect your energy, you protect your future. Here's what's helped me, and maybe it'll help you too. 1. Set time boundaries. Let people know, I only take calls after 5, or I've got 15 minutes, then I need to focus. It feels awkward at first, but you teach people how to treat your time. 2. Be honest but kind. You can say, I care about you, but I can't be your sounding board every day. Most real friends will understand. The ones who don't, they were never really listening anyway. 3, guard your creative space. Whether you're building a business, writing a book, or just finding peace, that time is sacred. Block it off, honor it, defend it. And if you're worried this sounds selfish, here's a reminder. Your time is your life. If someone doesn't value your time, they don't value your life. Stoic philosophy teaches us that time is the only thing we truly own. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." In other words, don't give your life away, 5 minutes at a time, to people who don't honor it. Final thought. Time vampires don't always mean harm, but their effect is real. They leave you mentally scattered, emotionally drained, and spiritually stagnant. So here's your permission. Say no without guilt. Leave the group chat, let the call go to voicemail, and take your time, your life back. Because the people who truly care about you will never make you feel guilty for choosing growth over distraction. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a brilliant idea, but then talked yourself out of it because it wasn't perfect yet? You didn't launch the project, didn't send the email, didn't start the blog, the book, the business. Why? Because in the back of your mind there was a voice whispering, "It's not good enough. You're not ready. You'll mess it up." That voice might not be yours. It might belong to the perfectionist, one of the most deceptive, toxic personalities to watch out for. Now here's the twist. The perfectionist isn't always malicious. Sometimes they're your boss, your parent, your partner, or even yourself. They seem like they have high standards, and at first it might even feel motivating. But over time, their expectations become a weight. They nitpick the smallest flaws. They obsess over polish. They delay progress in the name of doing it right. And suddenly nothing you do feels good enough. Your confidence drops. You second-guess your instincts. You start holding back, not because you lack talent, but because you're afraid to disappoint them. Let me tell you a quick story. I once worked with a creative partner who always wanted everything to be flawless. A 5-minute video took 5 weeks. A simple idea was revised into oblivion. Eventually, I realized something. We weren't improving the work. We were paralyzed by perfection. And you know what suffered the most? Not the product, the momentum. That's what perfectionism kills. Here's the danger. The perfectionist convinces you that their way is the only right way. But what they're really doing is feeding fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough. And when fear drives your choices, you don't create. You overthink. You delay. You shrink. Here's the truth. Done is better than perfect. Launched is better than polished. Progress beats paralysis every time. When you aim for growth instead of perfection, you unlock real momentum. You learn faster. You build faster. You fail forward and get better on the way. That's what the most successful people do. They don't obsess over flawless. They ship, improve, and repeat. Now, if you've got a perfectionist in your life, someone who constantly points out what's missing, what's wrong, what could be just a little better, here's what you can do. 1, set boundaries on feedback. Say something like, "I'm open to input, but only after the first version is done." Protect your creative process from constant interruption. 2, redefine success. Instead of asking, "Is this perfect?" Ask, "Did I move forward today? Did I show up with courage?" 3, silence your inner perfectionist, because sometimes the harshest critic lives in your own head. Remember, the perfectionist might mean well, but meaning well doesn't mean doing well. Their standards often come from fear. Fear of being judged, of losing control, of looking weak. But greatness doesn't come from control. It comes from courage, from trying before you're ready, from learning out loud. So if you've been waiting for the perfect moment, if you've been rewriting that one chapter for 3 months, if you've been fixing the logo instead of launching the business, this is your sign. Perfection isn't the goal. Impact is. You don't need to be flawless. You just need to be fearless enough to begin. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to grow in public. And you're allowed to protect your peace from people who confuse criticism with contribution. Because the world doesn't need your perfect work. It needs your real work. So start now, start messy, and keep going. The people who make a difference aren't perfect. They're just brave enough to keep showing up, even with shaky hands. If this resonated with you, hit subscribe, give this video a like, and let me know in the comments. What's one thing you've been holding off on, waiting for the perfect time? Let's break the chains of perfection together and build a life driven by courage, not fear. Here's a question that might change your life. Who do you spend your time with? And who are you becoming because of them? In the words of the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Let that sink in, because in a world full of noise, drama, and distractions, your environment is everything. And the people closest to you, they're not just part of your life. They shape your life. We all want to grow, to be wiser, stronger, more disciplined, more fulfilled. But here's the truth no one tells you. You can't build a powerful, peaceful life if you're surrounded by chaos. That's why the Stoics teach us something simple but profound. Choose your circle like your future depends on it, because it does. Imagine this like a Stoic circle, a personal inner circle made up of people who embody 4 powerful virtues. 1. Wisdom, people who think before they speak, who reflect before they judge. They help you see clearly, especially when emotions cloud your vision. 2. Courage, not the loud kind of bravery, but the quiet strength to do the right thing even when it's hard. These are the friends who say, "You've got this," when life feels impossible. 3. Integrity. They say what they mean. They do what's right even when no one's watching. They remind you that character still matters. 4. Self-discipline. These people don't just talk about goals, they live them. They keep promises to themselves, and that energy, it's contagious. So now the hard question, do the people around you reflect these traits, or are they pulling you in the opposite direction? Are they making excuses or taking action? Are they gossiping, complaining, procrastinating? Or are they challenging you to rise? Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is say, "I love you, but I can't keep shrinking to fit this version of me you're comfortable with." And that's okay. Building your Stoic circle isn't about arrogance or cutting people off without compassion. It's about being intentional with your energy. It's about asking, does this relationship align with the life I'm trying to build? And if not, then maybe it's time to make space for people who do. Let me share a quick personal moment. There was a time I was surrounded by smart people, but none of them were grounded. Everyone wanted to succeed, but no one wanted to sacrifice. No one held each other accountable. It was all hustle, no character. And then I met someone, just one person, who had all 4 Stoic traits. They didn't talk much. They just lived their values. And being around them made me better without even trying. That's the power of the right person. They don't just give you advice. They make you want to become someone worth taking advice from. So today I invite you to do an audit. Look around your circle, look in the mirror, and ask, who makes me wiser? Who gives me strength? Who reminds me to stand for what's right, even when it's hard? Who inspires me to live with discipline and purpose? And if your current circle doesn't reflect that yet, that's okay, because you can build it, one person at a time, one conversation at a time. And it starts with being that kind of person yourself. You don't need a big circle, you need a strong one. Even just 2 or 3 people with integrity, vision, and character can transform your life more than 100 surface-level connections ever could. So choose wisely, build slowly, be intentional, and remember your circle doesn't have to be perfect, but it should pull you forward. Because life is too short for empty conversations and energy vampires. You deserve a circle that challenges you to rise, not one that keeps you stuck. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and drop a comment below. What's one Stoic trait you want more of in your inner circle? Let's grow together and build circles that make us braver, better, and wiser every single day. You want to attract better people into your life? People who are grounded, courageous, Consistent? Here's a truth we don't hear often enough. It starts with becoming that kind of person yourself. The Stoics believed that the best way to build a life of virtue wasn't by chasing others, but by transforming yourself. Quietly, deeply, intentionally. And that's what we're talking about today. Not just finding the right people, but being the kind of person who naturally attracts them. You see, there's a common trap we fall into. We say things like, I wish I had more honest friends. I need people who push me to grow. Why do I always attract chaos? But here's the thing. People are mirrors, and life has a funny way of reflecting who we are more than what we want. If you want relationships based on trust, discipline, and integrity, you can't just wait for them. You have to embody them first. Think about it. If you walked into a room full of people who live with purpose, who don't gossip, who hold themselves to higher standards, would the current version of you feel at home there? Would you contribute towards that energy or silently lower it? That's not a judgment. It's an invitation to ask yourself right now, am I living in a way that attracts what I say I want? The Stoics had a word for this kind of self-reflection. Eudaimonia, the pursuit of human flourishing. But they weren't chasing perfection. They were practicing every single day, choosing courage over comfort, reason over impulse, discipline over drama. And over time, they became magnetic. Not because they were loud or popular, but because people could feel their presence. Calm, certain, anchored. Here's a story I'll never forget. A friend of mine, a former Marine, once told me, in battle, you don't choose who has your back. You rely on who's prepared, who's trained, who's proven. He said the same thing about life. You don't hope you'll be surrounded by great people when things get hard. You build yourself so that great people naturally want to stand beside you. That's what becoming the person you seek is really about. So what does that look like? It means showing up with integrity, even when no one's watching. It means practicing self-control, especially when it's hard. It means being the one who listens before judging, acts before complaining, and apologizes without ego. It means walking into every room with quiet confidence, not because you're perfect, but because you're committed to growth. And something powerful happens when you start doing that. Your energy shifts. People notice. Some drift away, and that's okay. But the right ones, they'll find you. Because the truth is, like attracts like. Grounded people are drawn to grounded people. Honest people are drawn to honest people. Disciplined people are drawn to those who live with purpose. So instead of waiting for someone to inspire you, be the one who inspires. Instead of looking for someone to lead you, be the one who leads by example. Instead of begging for support, become so steady, so trustworthy, that others trust you to support them. That's how you build your Stoic circle, from the inside out. Let's land this with a challenge. Tonight, when the noise fades and it's just you and your thoughts, ask yourself, am I living in a way that would make the people I admire want to walk beside me? And if the answer is not yet, good, because that means you're aware, and awareness is the beginning of transformation. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment below. What's one Stoic virtue you want to strengthen in yourself this week? Because when you become the person you seek, you don't chase your tribe, you attract it. Let's build better lives together. Let me ask you something that might sound simple, but it's not. Who gets your time? Not just who gets your attention or your thoughts, but your actual hours, your presence, your focus. Because the truth is, your time is your life. And one of the most powerful things you can do for your peace, your purpose, and your growth is to be selectively available. That's right, not always available, not to everyone, not for everything, just selectively available. On purpose with purpose. You see, in a world that celebrates being constantly connected, learning to say no is one of the boldest, most revolutionary acts of self-respect you can make. The Stoics understood this over 2,000 years ago. Seneca said, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to wasting time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Let that sink in. We protect our money, we lock our homes, we secure our phones or the phones. But when it comes to our time, the only non-renewable resource we have, we give it away freely, often to people or distractions that add no real value to our lives. Why? Because we're afraid of disappointing others. Or worse, we're afraid of looking selfish. But here's the thing most people miss. Saying no to what drains you is actually saying yes to what grows you. It's saying yes to your health, yes to your goals, yes to the people and projects that matter. Let me share something personal. A few years ago, I used to answer every message, attend every meeting, help with every favor, even when I was overwhelmed. I told myself it was the right thing to do, but all it did was leave me burnt out, resentful, and disconnected from the people I truly cared about. Then one day a mentor told me this: if you're always available, you'll never be truly present. That hit me hard because I realized availability is not the same as connection. Busyness is not the same as value. So I started making changes, small at first, then bigger. I began asking, does this align with my values? Will this help me become the person I want to be? Is this an energy deposit or an energy drain? And when the answer was no, I learned to say no, with kindness, but also with clarity. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming strategic. If you want to build your Stoic circle, if you want relationships that are meaningful, supportive, and growth-oriented, then you need space for those relationships to thrive. That means you need to stop giving your best time to your worst distractions. It means choosing one deep conversation over 10 shallow ones. It means choosing focused creation over constant reaction. It means choosing solitude over chaos, even when chaos screams louder. Here's something to remember. Boundaries aren't walls. They're gates. They don't shut everyone out. They simply protect the space where your best self can live, breathe, and build. And from that space, that quiet, protected center, you'll naturally draw the kind of people who respect your time, not resent it. People who value your no as much as your yes, because they're building their lives intentionally too. So here's your challenge. Today, look at your calendar, look at your inbox, look at your habits, and ask yourself, am I being available by choice or by guilt? Start small. Maybe you don't reply to that message right away. Maybe you decline a meeting that doesn't serve your mission. Maybe, just maybe, you carve out one sacred hour for something that moves your soul forward. Because every no to distraction is a louder, bolder yes to your destiny. If this message resonates with you, if you're ready to protect your time like it matters, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's one thing you're saying no to this week? And what will you say yes to instead? Because when you become selectively available, you don't just manage your time, you master your life. Let's reclaim our time and build something real. Let's talk about something that might make some people uncomfortable, but it's absolutely essential for your peace, your growth, and your sanity. Boundaries. You know, those invisible lines that separate who you are from what drains you. And if you want to live a life aligned with Stoic principles, calm, clear, and courageous, then you must learn how to establish clear boundaries. Because without them, your energy becomes a buffet, available to anyone who's hungry for your time, your attention, or your emotional bandwidth. Here's the truth most people won't tell you. Not everyone deserves access to you. Read that again. This doesn't mean you don't care about people. It means you care enough about yourself to stop sacrificing your peace for someone else's chaos. The Stoics knew this well. They believed in self-mastery, in protecting the mind from external noise and unnecessary drama. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do. That's boundary work in action. Now, let me ask you, who in your life leaves you feeling depleted after every interaction? Maybe it's the friend who always calls to complain but never listens. Maybe it's a family member who constantly criticizes or guilt trips you. Maybe it's that coworker who dumps their problems on you but never asks how you're doing. We all have those people. And for too long, we've told ourselves, it's just how they are. I don't want to seem rude. I can handle it. But here's the cost. Every time you let their negativity seep into your space, you chip away at your own clarity, your focus, your emotional freedom. And over time, you stop showing up fully, not just for them, but for the people and projects that truly matter to you. Setting boundaries is not about pushing people away. It's about protecting the environment where your best self can thrive. It sounds like this. I'd love to talk, but I can't take this on right now. I value our relationship, but I won't tolerate being disrespected. I need time to recharge, and that means stepping back from this dynamic. Clear, respectful, firm, and yes, some people won't like it, especially those who've benefited from your lack of boundaries. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to guard your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Let me give you a real-life example. There was a time when I was constantly available to everyone, for everything. I'd get texts at midnight from people who needed to vent. I'd take calls during my weekends, handle things that weren't mine to carry. And slowly, I began to feel anxious, scattered, and burnt out. Then one day, a therapist friend said something that changed my perspective. You're not a bad person for setting boundaries. You're just finally acting like someone who values their own well-being. That hit hard, and it was true. So I started saying no, not out of anger, not out of ego, but out of clarity. And guess what? The people who genuinely loved and respected me, they understood. And the ones who didn't, well, they revealed who they really were. Here's the Stoic lesson. Inner peace isn't something you stumble into. It's something you defend, with boundaries as your armor. So if you're building your Stoic circle, if you want relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and personal growth, you must start drawing lines. Lines that say, I am not available for emotional dumping. I don't entertain gossip or bitterness. I'm not a fixer, rescuer, or emotional sponge. You are not being mean. You are being wise. So here's your reflection for today. Think of one person or situation where you've felt constantly drained. What boundary needs to be set? And what's stopping you? Write it down. Say it out loud. Practice it with grace, but stand firm, because the world doesn't need more people pleasers. It needs more boundary builders, more protectors of peace, more warriors of calm. And that, my friend, that is how you begin to create a circle that fuels your growth, not your exhaustion. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. What's one boundary you're going to protect starting today? Let's build circles of strength, not stress. And let's start by drawing one clear line at a time. Let me ask you something. What makes a relationship truly valuable? Is it how long you've known someone? Is it how often you talk? Or is it the kind of energy, insight, and support you exchange every time you connect? If you're building a Stoic circle, a community rooted in wisdom, strength, and integrity, then here's a truth you can't ignore. Every interaction should be an opportunity to grow. Not in a transactional way, not in a what's in it for me kind of way, but in the deeper, richer sense of mutual elevation, where both people walk away better. The Stoics believe life is a journey of constant refinement of the mind, the character, and the soul. And just like iron sharpens iron, we are shaped deeply by the people we surround ourselves with. So if you want to evolve, you need to be around people who challenge you, not just to think bigger, but to live better. Ask yourself, are your conversations helping you grow or keeping you small? Think about the last few deep talks you had. Did they leave you feeling inspired? Did you walk away with a new insight? Or did you feel like you just lost an hour to gossip, complaints, or meaningless noise? It's not about judging others. It's about becoming intentional with your time, your energy, and your circle. Great relationships aren't built on frequency. They're built on substance. Now, here's the thing most people forget. Value exchange is a two-way street. You don't just want to find wise, courageous, disciplined people. You want to become one, so others are inspired to walk beside you. You bring value by asking thoughtful questions, sharing insights, not just opinions, encouraging others when they doubt themselves, offering honest feedback, not flattery, listening, really listening. Because when people feel seen, challenged, and supported, they rise. And so do you. Let me tell you about a mentor I had in my early 30s. He wasn't loud or flashy, but every conversation with him felt like a masterclass in presence and wisdom. He'd say things like, "Don't try to impress people, try to elevate them." That stuck with me. It changed how I approached every friendship, every collaboration, every room I walked into. I stopped showing up to get attention and started showing up to offer value, not with ego, with intention. And something incredible happened. The quality of my circle changed. I started attracting people who didn't just want to talk about others. They wanted to talk about ideas, purpose, growth. We started building momentum together. And that's the heart of a Stoic circle. It's not just people who agree with you. It's people who would expand you, people who challenge you when you're slipping, who remind you of your values when the world pulls you in the wrong direction, who hold you accountable, not out of control, but out of care. It's a space where growth is normalized, learning is continuous, support is intentional. But here's the catch. You have to nurture it. That means showing up consistently. That means not ghosting when life gets busy. That means staying curious, open, and engaged. So here's a practical question. What kind of value are you bringing into your closest relationships right now? And just as important, are you surrounded by people who help you become a better thinker, a stronger doer, a wiser human being? If the answer is not yet, that's okay. Start by being that person. Reach out with purpose. Ask deeper questions. Offer encouragement instead of small talk. And slowly your circle will begin to reflect the energy you bring. So here's your challenge. This week, choose one person in your circle. Send them something of real value. A book, a question, a compliment with depth. Then ask yourself, what's one thing I can learn from them and one thing I can offer in return? Because this isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional with the way you show up and with the kind of community you're building. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's one way you add value to the people in your life? Let's build a world where connection isn't shallow. It's powerful, where relationships aren't distractions, they're accelerators. And it all starts with one meaningful interaction at a time. Let's bring this all home. You've heard the saying before, maybe in a book, maybe from a mentor, or maybe just scrolling through your feed, you become who you surround yourself with. But have you ever stopped to really feel the weight of that truth? Because in today's noisy, distracted world, your mind, your values, your peace, they are always under construction. And the people you allow into your mental and emotional space, they're the architects. Some help you build fortresses of focus, strength, and wisdom. Others quietly chip away at your foundation with gossip, drama, doubt, and subtle negativity. So here's the question. Who are you building with? And who's slowly tearing you down? Now, let's be honest. Most of us don't choose our circles intentionally. They just happen. We hang out with whoever's nearby. We keep old friendships out of habit. We tolerate draining conversations because we're afraid of being alone. But here's the hard truth. Your future depends on your standards. And if your standards for friends, partners, and communities are low, so is the ceiling of your potential. The Stoics had no room for passive relationships. To them, life was too short and too sacred to be spent in bad company. They taught, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Seneca. And equally important, accept only those whom you can improve. Because true friendship is not just comfort, it's transformation. So let me offer you this simple but powerful invitation. Take an honest inventory of your circle. Look around. Who energizes you? Who drains you? Who helps you stay grounded in your values when life gets loud? And who pulls you away from the person you're trying to become? This isn't about judgment. It's about alignment. And yes, this might mean having tough conversations. This might mean creating some boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates. You're not locking people out of your heart. You're protecting the garden of pure mind, and that's your responsibility, no one else's. Let me say that again. Protecting your peace, sharpening your logic, strengthening your discipline. That's on you. No one will do it for you. But the good news is you can do it. You absolutely can. You have the ability to decide who enters your life and how close they get to your core. That's power. That's freedom. And when you start building your life with intention, when you begin forming a Stoic circle of your own, something incredible happens. Your internal world becomes quieter. Your decisions become sharper. And your discipline, your drive, your peace, they all begin to rise because you've created an environment that doesn't fight your values. It feeds them. Now, let me leave you with one final practice. Before this day ends, take a moment to sit in silence. Grab a notebook and ask yourself 3 questions. 1, who in my life truly supports my growth? Emotionally, intellectually, spiritually? Who leaves me feeling anxious, heavy, or small? 3, what boundaries do I need to create? And what connections do I want to deepen? Answer honestly. Your answers might surprise you. They might scare you, but they will also liberate you. Because the Stoic path isn't about cutting people off just to feel powerful. It's about choosing relationships that elevate your life and letting go of those that erode it, even if it's just slowly, silently. So what now? Take action. Have the conversation. Make the shift. Maybe that means spending less time with someone who constantly criticizes your dreams. Maybe it means reaching out to that one person who always reminds you of your worth. Maybe it means finally saying no, not out of anger, but out of love for your peace. And as we close, remember this. You are not powerless. Your mind, your energy, your future, they are yours to protect. Peace of mind isn't a mystery. It's a series of decisions made daily. And the Stoics gave us a compass that still works today. Control what you can, let go of what you can't. You can't control how others behave. You can't change their values. But you can choose where you place your attention, your time, your trust. So build wisely, love deeply, and walk forward with intention and with strength. If this message spoke to you, take a second to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's part of your Stoic circle or someone who should be. Drop a comment below. What's one relationship in your life that brings out the best in you to rebound, and why? Let's build a community of wisdom seekers, of truth tellers, of people who choose depth over noise and purpose over popularity. This is how we rise, not alone, but together. One honest conversation at a time.